Welcome to History Adventuring. This is episode number 308. I'm Brad Hall, and today we're looking at the first buildings in Phoenix made of adobe, melting away for years. The first buildings in Phoenix, Arizona were made out of adobe. That is, the dirt found in the desert, and there's a lot of dirt there, mixed with water, made into blocks, and stacked on top of each other. They were the buildings that the Hohokam people made, and were the most economical way to build for the early pioneers of Phoenix. When the railroad made it to Phoenix in 1887, 17 years after the town was platted, bricks and other building materials became more economical, and the building of adobe structures was pretty much discontinued. Before the railroad, building materials, other than adobe, had to be brought down from Prescott, or places like that, laboriously, with carts and oxen. Just like today, old buildings were left when they were no longer used. It's a whole lot cheaper to just leave something to fall down on its own than to hire people to do a demolition. And the adobe buildings just melted anyway. This photo from 1890 is typical of what you would have seen around Phoenix right up through the 1930s. That is, a modern brick building not far from an old adobe building. The brick building there, by the way, was the old Churchill Mansion, which became the first high school in Phoenix, at what is now Polk and 5th Streets. You're looking east. Just like today, memories are short, and as the old adobe buildings melted away, it caused some confusion with the residents of Phoenix, who mostly assumed that they were all prehistoric, that is, from the Hohokams, and they must have looked very primitive. Of course, if you were Omar Turney or some other expert on the Hohokams back then, the difference between the remains of a Hohokam adobe building or one that was only a few decades old would have been obvious. It wouldn't have been obvious to me. I would have just seen old adobe buildings. So, as you would expect, most people living in Phoenix naturally assumed that all of the old adobe buildings were Hohokam. And if you've ever seen what's left of an old abandoned adobe building after a few decades, you will understand. There's not much difference between modern buildings and ancient ones. Eventually, the adobe blocks just melt down back to lumps and globs, like you see at Pueblo Grande. Those lumps and globs were all over Phoenix, some built by the Hohokams, some built by people like Jack Swilling. This has been History Adventuring. I'll talk to you later.